Hello, welcome to European Open Briefing for Thursday, December the 6th. I'm Rafa Barajan, currency analyst at XM.com, and we're going to be taking a look at what's happening in the currency markets today. So we're seeing widespread risk aversion in the markets this morning. We already had risk off yesterday and late on Tuesday, but adding to that deteriorating risk sentiment is news that Canada has arrested the Chinese executive for extradition to the US, and that has added to the growing doubts about whether or not that trade truce agreed between the US and China at the G20 summit will hold, although we are seeing some upbeat comments from both President Trump and Chinese officials that a trade deal can be done in that 90-day negotiating period. Nevertheless, markets are not in a very good mood this morning. The yen is the biggest gainer as it's the traditional safe haven currency. It's also rising against the US dollar yen currently trading at 112.75, slipping below the 113 level. If you have a look at the riskier currencies, the Aussie, the Kiwi, and the Loonie all struggling against the greenback. The Aussie down by a further 0.7% this morning, adding to yesterday's losses when it fell on the back of weak GDP numbers. The Loonie fell sharply yesterday after the Bank of Canada struck a more cautious tone, and the Loonie has already been under pressure from falling oil prices, and oil prices are down by 0.8% this morning ahead of that meeting by OPEC and other major producers on whether or not they are going to cut output. If you're having a look at European currencies, the euro is marginally lower at 1.1328 at the moment. Sterling is more or less flat at the moment. Looking more closely at dollar yen, we can see that it's been gradually drifting lower as markets aren't that convinced that the US and China will be able to negotiate a trade deal in the coming months. And there's news that this morning that Canada has arrested Huawei's CFO on alleged charges of violating US sanctions on Iran. China isn't too happy about that, and that has the danger of upsetting the trade truce between the US and China. Adding to the negative pressure on the dollar is the declining treasury yields. We still have a negative spread between 5 and 2 and 3 year treasury notes, and that's usually seen as a sign of a possible recession to come. So that's adding to investor nerves about the outlook for the US and global economy. Having a look at sterling, it has steadied a little bit following those wild swings we saw on Tuesday after Theresa May lost 3 major votes around Brexit in Parliament, and so now she's looking at making some concessions to MPs in order to win backing for her deal. And there's a possibility that December 11 vote, the final vote on the Brexit deal, could be postponed. But for now, investors, traders are waiting for more news before they make fresh positions, fresh bets on the pound. Having a look at oil prices now, we can see oil prices are comfortably holding above those lows from last week, but it is lacking direction at the moment. So OPEC Plus is meeting today to discuss on whether or not to cut output. They're expected to announce a reduction of between 1 and 1.4 million barrels. If they announce a smaller cut, it's unlikely to it's unlikely to halt the slide in oil prices, and also it's going to be significant whether or not they're going to announce any cut based on November output levels or September ones, because if they go with November when output had risen sharply, it's not going to make much difference in alleviating the supply glut. We are expecting a press conference at around 12 hours GMT. Looking at the loonie though, which had already been under pressure from those falling oil prices, it did come under heavy selling pressure yesterday after the Bank of Canada unexpectedly struck a more cautious tone about the pace of future rate hikes. We're seeing the loonie fall sharply to 1.5-year low dollar CAD, surging to above the 1.34 level. So the next in focus for the loonie will be tomorrow's employment numbers for November. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.